Do you guys want to hear something really funny? So, yesterday I got an email out of nowhere, and it was from a friend of mine that I haven't spoke to, maybe like actually spoken to in a few years. And the email was for a gig that is coming up here in Las Vegas. And of course, I took it and I got on a call with this guy, and everything went well. Everything went perfectly well. We got along. I got a part of a Slack chat, and they were talking about how good of a fit I am for this, and how we're gonna, get into doing more business together in the future. We talked about rates. We talked about all this stuff, and this is where the story gets a little bit more funny. A few hours go by. It's the next day, and I'm at the gym. I'm sitting there at the gym and I'm scrolling on my phone inside the sauna, and I get an email from one of the guys saying, "Hey," pretty much what the email said, because I don't want to exploit what it was, but it was just saying, "Hey, hope to work with you in the future." And I was thinking in my head, yeah, I'm excited and grateful for this opportunity that we're going to be going here in a couple of days. Like, yeah, let's do it. And they were pretty much saying that they hired another Chris. And I was kind of upset in a way of it just threw me off, because there was a point where I thought I had this locked in. I thought everything was good. We'll do contracts and invoices later. I'm not too worried about it. And I responded back with I thought about it for a few seconds, and I just responded with grateful for the opportunity, and I really hope to work with you guys in the future. I hope you guys can consider me. Their response was, "Oh, I'm sorry, we went with another Chris," right? That was pretty much what the response was. And I was confused because I'm like, what other Chris did they talk to? But then he used the word Chris P. If you guys don't know, my last name is Pedersen, but it's also Yost. So I go on the Slack chat and I message this guy and I say, "Hey man, just confirming, is this job going, or are we going to do this?" Pretty much. And I'm like, "By the way, I have two last names, Yost and Pedersen." And I explained the whole thing of Pedersen is what's on one of my IDs and everything else. And then Yost is what my birth certificate shows, because my parents were never married, but it's a difficult, weird conversation. It's a big LOL. And he responded, he goes, "No, you're good. You got it. I can't believe I thought you were two people." And in my head, I'm thinking, like, what a whirlwind. Because what if I responded with negativity? As I like to call it, I react. What if I reacted to this scenario that I'm not hired for this gig? What if I responded with, "Hey man, what the heck? Like, I thought you were gonna hire me. I thought everything was good, and you just all of a sudden turn this on me, blah, blah, blah. I got a family," and I start going ham on this person. How embarrassing would it have been to then be like, "Oh, Chris Yost and Chris Pedersen, you're the same people. My bad. But we don't like your character. We don't like your attitude. We don't like who you are as a person anymore because you reacted to this." So the big takeaway is choose to respond versus react. I responded to the message understanding that, hey, maybe I wasn't the right fit. This goes back to the imposter syndrome episode. Maybe I'm not good enough for this part, or maybe someone else fit the part better than I did. But I responded with respect, and I responded with professionalism, because if I were to react and say all this stuff and do this, it wasn't even on my mind, really, to be completely honest with you, because I don't really respond like that or react. There's a few times in my past I've been a little upset here and there, but we're all human, right? But to this, I just responded. I thought about what would be a good response, because I would love to work with these people in the future, no matter what. If they use me now, they use me later. It doesn't really matter to me. No matter what, I want to keep that relationship. So I chose to respond, and it ended up being a whole laugh out loud moment. They confused me as being two people, because they didn't talk to another Chris, right? Technically, we were on a call for a whole hour. I'm pretty sure they knew, like, there was one Chris they were talking to. The whole moral of the story, I just really wanted to tell the story and this thing, because I think it's a huge deal for how many people out there, young entrepreneurs, business owners, people in general, choose to react versus respond. So if you're ever in a situation to where you're feeling like something isn't fair, or something you feel like you have to react towards it because you have this really frustrating feeling, choose to think on it and respond, because you might be considered later. And even if you aren't, it is better to go out with respect and have that going on in your mind, because you don't want to be known as a person who's like a little ticking time bomb where they're sitting there happy and all of a sudden you say no to them and they just throw a fit, right? You don't want that. No one wants to be around that person. So before I end this, I want to talk about one more little thing that just happened. I got a call, and I'm not going to detail what the call was about, but I just received another call for some bad news. News that I was really, really looking forward to, something I was so close to getting, and I didn't get it. I hung up the phone, said thank you, and I vented about it first, right? I was talking with a friend, and I was just saying, hey, like, this effing sucks. Like, I really, really wanted this. I really did. Like, it's emotionally upsetting. It's not really upsetting as like I'm angry and I want to punch a hole in the wall, but it's more emotional, like for my family, right? And I didn't get this thing that I really wanted. But instead of calling back and cussing them out or talking about this and that, I called back and I said, hey, I would love to be reconsidered. I would love to see if there's anything else we can do. I'm willing to work with whatever that we need to. And now nothing's promised, but I didn't flip out and I was able to respond, and I'll hopefully get a message back next week. The biggest thing here, just going back to the last conversation and even the imposter syndrome one, is when you are able to have your character show in the highs and the lows, you're able to, I guess, have a better outcome no matter what. There's moments that are meant to happen. So maybe you don't get things for a reason. And I've been a victim of that many times. Something good doesn't happen, and then something great happens afterwards, something even better than I could have thought. When things don't go right, they always have that whole quote, once one door closes, another opens. Like, that's nothing but true. Every time I've had a bad downfall in my life or a really low low, it's been followed up with a high high. Depending on the timeline, it's not always right away. For instance, for getting back on my feet and getting more gigs and more jobs and stuff, it took me from May or June of last year until now. It took a long time. A lot of it was my fault because I didn't probably go out there and do a whole bunch, but still, you just are grateful for being a human being and having good character when you're able to, I guess, respond versus react. So take it how you will. If you're in a situation to where you think you need to respond versus react, I highly encourage you to respond and think about it. If you have to, even use Chat GPT. There's been a couple times where I said a really mean message in my head, right? I'm like typing it out. I'm just like, blah, 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 blah. And I've thrown it in Chat GPT and I said, make this nice, right? And then when I read it back, I think, thank God I had a second opinion. Now, that could be a friend if you don't trust AI or if you think it's after you, whatever. Go talk to a friend and say, hey, these are the feelings I'm feeling towards this. How would you respond, or how can I respond without it ruining my character? Because we're all human. We all have anger. We all have issues, and we all have tempers in some sense of way, right? So what are ways or people that you can talk to come up with a solution so that way your character is protected? So that's my advice, is protect your character, protect your value, protect yourself, and just choose to respond versus react. 60% of the job is who you are as a person. The 40% is your skill set, which tells the biggest story overall. Is you could be the best at what you do, but if you aren't within their vibe or the characteristics that they're looking for in a person to work with, right? The chemistry, it sometimes doesn't work out. These people were able to choose me over maybe a couple other options, or choose me alongside. Maybe everyone else was also great, but maybe I was just at 1% more of what they wanted. Maybe I was more local or whatever it is. Who knows the case? But I won in the character part, right? So this goes to you as a small business too. If you are new into your field and everything else, like you will be hired for who you are as a person versus how skilled you are. Now, obviously the pay might not be the same as maybe someone else, but you'll have more consistent work. This also reminds me of a time when I had my first live streaming gig back in 2020. It was super cool because this gig was for a high value number. And the number is $6,500 for a 3-day live stream. a 3-day live stream that I was able to control virtually. And I had my friend help me, but guess what? 2 days before that, I built a computer because I didn't have one. I could tell a story about that thing in a while because that was a crazy one. After the gig happened, I asked, hey, what is some feedback that you have for me? What are some things that I could do better? And what does it look like to work with you guys again? Just basic stuff. She said that they had a lot of people that they could have hired. A lot of people that were cheaper and people that they trusted that were a little bit more expensive. Not by a whole lot, but a little bit more expensive. And I was in that higher price for what they wanted. But they chose me because I was a new business. They chose me because they knew that I was hungry for this. Like I would give them my 100%. They chose me because of my characteristics, my personality, the how I handle things. They were able to see that and be like, oh, this is someone we want to work with. Your character ties into so much success. And there's a lot of people out there who are great people that don't get the opportunities over other people who are probably not as good people. That happens in life. It's very unfortunate, but just know if you continue being that person, you will continue growing and getting further in life and doing more with your business. So takeaway again is respond, don't react, and also look after yourself. Sunshine and I were just talking just now, and she was mentioning to me that, well, the biggest competition is yourself, isn't it? It might sound confusing for those of you who don't understand what that really means, because obviously it's not you versus you when it comes to like some jobs. Like mine was funny because I have 2 last names, so I was kind of versing myself, so it's like a funny situation. But a lot of the times it's true. It is you versus you. When you're out there looking for work or trying to find friends or trying to find gigs or anything else in life, you sometimes think it's you versus someone else, like you over someone else. But really, it's how do you be you to stand out for them to choose you, if that makes any sense. How are you able to stand out? And that's the easy answer is by being your absolute authentic self and having those characteristics. It all leads back to the same thing. You know, I had this mentor, everyone probably knows him, that does watch me, and his name is Benji Travis. When I was 15 years old and I started mowing his lawn and washing his car, that's the first work that I've ever done for him. This is like 2008 or 9 or something like that. And he gave me a book. Or no, he told me to come over with a book. And he said, like a notebook. And he said, write down these words. And I was like, all right. Like, just look up the dictionary or bring up your phone or something like that. But he made me have a notepad. And the words were quality, quantity, punctual, time management, integrity. And I think there was 1 or 2 more. I forget what they were. But those words hold weight in my life to this day. Time management, I'm still working on. Right? Let's just kick that in the face. Everyone kind of has, you know, their own time frame that sometimes things don't always work out. You think you're going to get there early, but you're not, whatever. But the whole part that really overvalues all those words is integrity. Integrity is doing the right thing when no one is looking. When he showed me that, it was because when I'd mow his lawn, he didn't go out and check it for me. He didn't say, oh, you missed a spot. He would trust that I would do the right thing when he's not looking. Same thing when I'm washing his car. He might have cash in there. He might need this one part washed. He wants to be sure that I do it, so I wash the car twice. I clean the inside, outside, don't touch a thing, leave it, and he saw that. So, I mean, just going back to just everything about character and everything, integrity plays a huge part too, a super huge part. I just hope that this segment itself can be beneficial to those of you who might need either that word of wisdom or something like that. So hope it works out.